When you're in turmoil internally, everything looks chaotic. Everything looks confusing. But when you have internal calm and peace, all the crises, all the challenges, all the problems have significantly different perspective. You know how to face life, you know how to engage it.
I think one thing that I am going to drastically change about 2023 and 2024 to 2025 is that I want to bring good things into my life, and I want to exude great positive products out of the things that we're building and doing.
There are many people whose story ended with cancer. They did not lose their battle. Death is not the final defeat. We get to kick death in the teeth when we have life in us.
You're listening to the Mind Shift podcast. My name is Erwin McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin McManus. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's 2025.
It's amazing. It's just incredible. I know that the shift of New Year's is sort of an arbitrary thing that we kind of make up as human beings, but there is something really dynamic about bringing a close to something and then opening up something new. And so even if it's just psychological, I love starting the new year, having a fresh start, and just setting my sights for what we can accomplish in this new section of life that we call 2025.
As we start 2025, we just want to say thank you. From us at Mindshift, me and you, Dad, want to say thank you guys for listening, for being a part of this, for hanging in there on the journey, for being a part of Battle Ready, the old name of this podcast to now the modern name, Mindshift. We just want to thank you. Thank you for being a part of this, the highs and the lows, the politics, the faith stuff, the spirituality, the conversations, the fights, all of those good and bad moments. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do this, and we wouldn't want to do this without you. This is the whole point, is that we are doing this together. So we want to invite you, one simple thing: rate and review this podcast. Go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, rate the podcast, review this podcast, and share this podcast with your friends.
And I don't think it is incidental that our podcast went from Battle Ready to Mindshift, because the battle always begins and ends in the mind.
I love it. And if you're new here and you're wondering, like, what the heck is Battle Ready? Battle Ready was the last chapter of your book, The Last Arrow.
That's true.
And in the middle, and not to go too deep into the origin story of this podcast, but you were embarking on a battle with cancer. Mm-hmm. And so that last chapter of that book was your conversation and your essentially like declaration of you fighting your way through this next season of life. And so for the next 5 years or so, 6 years, we were under the name Battle Ready.
Yeah, and I want to go back just a little bit, because when I wrote that chapter, when I wrote the book and finished it, it was before I had a 6-hour surgery. And so I didn't know if I was going to be here when that book came out. And I never liked the language when people would say, well, he lost his battle against cancer, or he won his battle against cancer. I don't think living and dying is the measure of winning a battle against cancer. I think it's how you live, and in a sense, and how you face death. And so for me, I didn't know if I was going to survive, but I knew I won my battle against cancer. And I think every day of our lives, there are battles that we have to win. And that's why I think this podcast is really important, because every single day, everyone is facing a battle. Every one of us are taking on challenges. Every one of us are facing things that feel bigger than us, or can feel overwhelming, or even devastating. And if you can understand that the battle is first won in your inner world, it's won first in your mind, and then it translates into life itself. And so I love that we started with Battle Ready, that it was the last chapter of The Last Arrow. But I want to say, because there are many people whose story ended with cancer, they did not lose their battle. There are a lot of incredibly brave and beautiful and extraordinary people who won the battle against cancer. Death is not the final defeat. We get to kick death in the teeth when we have life in us. And that's, by the way, why, for me, my relationship with Jesus is so central, because death has been already defeated. And every day of my life, I live with that reality.
I really appreciate you sharing your life openly. You've been one of those human beings, I think, in my life. Obviously, you hold a different weight in my life. You know, you're my dad, you're my friend, you've been my pastor, you've been my employer, you've been my business partner, you've been my, my ex-girlfriend, all the things. But one of the things that I'm really, really grateful for is getting to do this. And one, that you wrote that book, The Last Arrow. Two, that you fought hard in your battle with cancer. And and three, just that we get to, I think, put our lives out there and talk a little bit more about the things going on in our personal lives. And that's a lot about what this podcast is. We are focused on making mental shifts, but also we're really here dissecting our own lives, presenting that to the world. And we're going to forever apologize to our friends and family for using our situations online. But for part of it is like, if you know it, if you're around us, you kind of know you're a part of the process and you're part of this open operation called Mindshift.
Yep.
But
people can be almost like in two different stages in relationship to Mindshift. There are many people, and we're so thankful for you, who are our audience. And you're listeners, and you take the podcast, you absorb it into your life, hopefully apply it and share it with friends. But there are other people who listen to Mindshift, and they're really our community.
I kind of consider if you decide to hit play, you're now one of us.
All right, I love that.
Yeah.
But we're going to create an opportunity for people to move from audience to community.
We are going to create a place for Mindshift to live throughout the week when you're not listening to the podcast. We're building a community online. You can go to erwinmcmanus.com and you can go /MindshiftPod, and you're going to be able to join a school community. What we did the last 2 years with Arena, we want to bring to Mindshift. We want to basically create a space where our audience, our community, our tribe, all of you mind shifters out there. I don't know, like we don't have like a
I love that.
a cutesy
I kind of love that.
nickname
That's kind of cool.
for our community.
Like shapeshifters,
mind shifters. I don't know. I don't know.
I like
it makes me feel a little bit weird.
Absolutely.
I'm rolling off the cuff. But we're creating a community where you guys can access. It's $25 a month because we're launching in 2025. Essentially, we will in school. There's a community aspect. So there's an app you can download. It's essentially how we run Arena. With Arena, we do a weekly calls. We do like monthly events, and then we do a big conference every year that when you join the Arena membership, that's what you get access to. With the Mindshift Pod community, it'll be really simple. One, we're going to create a space where you guys can ask questions. We're going to do once a month a live podcast that's hosted for our community where we're answering your questions that you've asked inside the community, where you guys can engage with each other, connect with each other. And also, hopefully, when we take this thing on the road and do a tour, we can build this based on where our community lives, and it will give us a chance to get to know you guys a little bit more. I'll be in the community, you'll be in the community. Jacob and Austin from our team will be in the community as well, so you'll be able to interact with us, ask questions, and we'll hopefully engage more often than not, which I'm really excited about. But we'll definitely be doing exclusive merch drops, which our first drop is in 2 weeks. We spent the break, me and Tess, working on Mindshift merch, which is very exciting. And what most people don't know is the last year and a half, 2 years, we've been developing a collection called Ghost Artifacts. But inside that collection, I decided we were making so many patterns that we needed to create our own merch line. So for everything that we do with Arena, for Mindshift, and for Mosaic, really, we created a merch line. So it's our own blanks, it's our own merch, it's custom, it's white label, it's like some of the best fabrics. It's a little bit more expensive than normal, but like they're like some of the nicest stuff. This stuff is like equitable to like what Fear of God is using, or Root is using, or Amiri, or some of these like top brands. We're using the same factories, we're using a lot of the same materials. So I'm very excited. So there'll be exclusive merch, there'll be exclusive Q&A live podcast every month, and really there'll just be week-to-week engagement, which is really exciting. And there was a third thing. Exclusive episodes just for community members. So it's very exciting. $25 a month. You can join the Mindshift community. You can do it today. This episode will be the first time we are launching this, which is very exciting. And we are really appreciative of every single person who's a part of this community. So we want to give you a place where you can interact day to day, not just every week on Friday. And I'm very excited.
I think one of the fun things about it is whenever we create merch, we always do limited runs. We basically decide we want to make 100 of these or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I do super limited runs. Yeah.
And people get really frustrated and upset. I didn't get one of those. I didn't get one of those.
Yeah.
And
you know why you didn't get one of those? Because you didn't have trust. Because you didn't buy it right away. Because you waited. No, I'm just kidding.
And so in our Mindshift community, you'll always have first access to all the merch drops, even if they're not exclusive. You'll have the first, because they're essentially all exclusive in that they're very limited runs.
We make everything really limited. And but we've never released a Mindshift merch. Never.
But on top of that, we're going to make some merch that you can only have if you're in the Mindshift community, which I think is so much fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking like an identifiable sticker that only like, because I was thinking about this. I was like, we've been traveling so much, and you know, like we have the same luggage pretty much, me and you, and so we have to like put stickers on them to identify which one's which. Yeah. And I think we'll create like an exclusive badge sticker that'll just be Mindshift community only. And then we'll have like a hat and like a hoodie. And then we'll just drop stuff throughout the year. But the goal for me, one of my big goals this year is to release something new every month for Mindshift. So that's very exciting on the community side and on the merch side. So
I'm excited.
The 3 things: community exclusive merch, a once a month live stream podcast where we answer your community questions, and 3 exclusive episodes just for community members. It's $25 a month. ErwinMcManus.com/mindshiftpod.
And how soon should they go?
They should go today. The moment this
So it's available right now.
It's available right now. The team's already building it out.
So why don't we do a 20, 30-minute exclusive episode for everyone who joins the Mindshift community and make it available only to them?
This is amazing. I love it. Cool.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So guys.
Are we doing that now?
There'll be an episode. No, we'll do it just a
We'll
little while.
We'll do it after this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. 2025. Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
I don't actually do resolutions.
You got to give me something.
But
you're already 2025 episode 1 and you're already dodging the questions.
You asked me if I have any. But I was walking and I was thinking to myself, what's one of my goals for 2025?
What's one of your goals?
And to use inner peace as a compass for moving forward. And there's this, there's this passage that's really important to me. It says, he will give you perfect peace when your mind is stayed on him because you trust in him. And so I was meditating on that, thinking to myself, I need to use inner peace more as a compass, because when you have inner peace, you really have a clarity of everything around you. When you're in turmoil internally, everything looks chaotic. Everything looks confusing. But when you have internal calm and peace, all the crises, all the challenges, all the problems have very, very significantly different perspective. You know how to face life. You know how to engage it. So I told myself, one of the things I want this year is I want to trust my inner compass, that as I move toward inner peace, I'm moving in the right direction for my life.
Do you feel like you have inner peace right now?
I do. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't have some turmoil. It doesn't mean I don't have stuff I'm processing, working through. But inner peace really has to do with you being in alignment with your values and your intention. And I feel like my life is in alignment with my values and intentions. That gives me a deep sense of inner peace.
I love that. What would you say your primary intention is?
It's interesting because it's layered for me. I do feel like I have a primary intention to live a life that creates in other people an opportunity to believe deeply in who Jesus is. And that is probably one of my highest life intentions, is that I want to live a life that becomes proof of God to other people. And that's always, ever since I had a radical change in my life through faith, that's always been my primary intention. But I also feel like I have the other side of my coin is I really believe in the potential of humanity. And which a lot of times is almost a conflict. If you believe in God, it almost feels like you don't believe in humans. But I really believe in humanity. I feel like a huge part of my intention, what part of my calling, is to elevate what it means to be human and to bring that out of every person whose life I come in contact with, whether it's interpersonally or through influence. And if I can create a world where everyone becomes the highest version of themselves, I feel like I've made the world better.
I love that. My 2025 resolution,
Yeah.
because I'm not quite as advanced as you, I have 2 words that I'm focusing on. Because someone asked me this the other day, and they said, "What are the things you're bringing into 2025?" And I like that. I'm like, okay, so it's not so much about like this New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we don't like the word because no one can actually stick to it. No one is resolved. No one has been resoluted. I'm just kidding. The reality is that I think my 2025 2 words in 2025 are discipline and excellence. I want to have a higher level of self-mastery. And I think about this because I think about your word peace, and you wrote a book called The Way of the Warrior, and it talks about a warrior's way of peace, way to peace, right? Yeah. This incredible path and journey to peace. And that book was really interesting. You had told me so much of it was written around my struggle with internal peace. And the reality for me is that I do struggle with internal peace. And so I want to bring in two words in 2025, discipline and excellence. I want to live my life at a higher level of discipline, saying, what do I say no to myself with? what are the things that I say no to myself about? What are the things I say yes to myself? Am I accepting good things from my life? Am I accepting bad things from my life? I think one thing that I'm going to drastically change about 2023 and 2024 to 2025 is that I want to bring good things into my life, and I want to exude great positive products out of the things that we're building and doing. I feel like the last 2 years have been so much about self-discovery. When you asked me what I did 2 years ago, I really couldn't answer that question. But in the last 2 years, we've built the arena. We've further built out Mindshift. We've had this amazing team. We've built out the 7 frequencies of communication, the assessment. Like, we've done so many really cool things. I have Ghost Artifacts first collection in my living room for the last 4 months. It's taking over so much of my real estate in my house. And so I want to really produce. I want to put out good things. I don't want to just dream about great ideas. I want to produce great ideas.
I love that.
And so that's been a part of the discipline side, is like committing to the thing. And then excellence is like doing it as best as I can and understanding that the next round, the next level, the next year, I'll do it better. That just because I maybe can't make it look exactly how I want to do it now, that the next round I get another shot. And so it's just about getting to that next round. And I think I was watching... I don't know what I was watching. I was watching some TikTok clip about a UFC fighter, and the guy just said, literally, you're going to win or lose it in this round. You've lost the last 3. You have to go all out. And he goes and knocks the dude out. And he was some big heavyweight guy.
Wow. And
he said something so much more eloquent than I did, but I just thought that's the excellence part. It's the lasting to the fifth round. Just making it there is an accomplishment, but how you go out in that 5th round really matters. And so for the excellence part, I just want to bring a level of stability, a level of clarity, a level of positive chaos and creativity to everything that we're doing. I felt like last year kicked me in the teeth, and this year I ain't got no more teeth left. So let's go. Let's go.
You know, when I hear discipline and excellence, what I hear is execution.
Yes. That's the intersection.
Yeah, that you want to be known for execution. And I think that's pretty powerful. I love that. You know, if I go back, if I can go back just a little bit and unwrap a little bit of my sense of peace, because even as you're sharing, you know, I just see these images in my mind. When we're on the surface of water, let's say there's a hurricane or a tempest, it's tumultuous, it can drown you, it's chaotic, it's violent. But there's no water pressure. It's all surface pressure. But when the deeper and deeper and deeper you go into the ocean, the calmer it is. So there can be a storm on the surface of the water, but if you go deep, you'll find a calm. And sometimes the water is so tumultuous, you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper to finally find the calm. But the problem with the calm is that the deeper you have to go to find calm, the more water pressure there is. And so there's a sense where you must be willing to take on greater pressure to experience the deeper calm. And I think so many of us are living on the surface of our emotions and the surface of our intention and the surface of our experiences. So life is always tumultuous because we don't want the pressure of going deep. So we end up with the chaos of staying on the surface. And I find in my own life that when I'm on the surface, life is chaotic. When I go deep, there's pressure on me, but there's great calm. And so there's a sense where you have discipline and excellence. I think maybe my combination would be pressure and calm. And so I want to match your discipline and excellence with my pressure and calm. And I think that's what makes us a great team.
I love it. Okay, should we dive into a couple of things?
All right, let's go.
What'd you do during your break?
Oh,
did you get any rest in?
I mean, can you define nothing? You know, because I didn't do much of anything.
Okay.
And in fact, I think I became incredibly skilled. You know, if they say you have to put in 10,000 hours to be great at something,
I just put in 10,000 hours of nothing.
I just put in 10,000 hours of nothing. So I am now an expert at nothing.
You could not get me out the house. You could not get me to a party. You could not get me to a dinner. I rested.
Yeah, we really just stayed at home, chilled, watched a lot of football.
We watched a lot of football.
And of course, you know, your mom, my wife, Kim, that's purgatory for her.
She's in living hell.
Yeah, she's like, how many more football games? She goes, it sounds like what you're saying to me is that there are nonstop football games.
That's what we're saying too.
And I said, I know, honey, I'm describing heaven.
We were explaining to her the playoffs, the new college football playoffs.
Yes, it's like a dream come true for everyone that didn't have enough.
Yes.
And not only are there the college playoffs, but there's also the National Football League happening at the same
This
time.
little league called the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's been so much fun. I think it's a really fun time to love football.
I think it's an amazing time to love football.
Yeah. And,
especially in the chaos of the NIL.
oh my goodness. Yep.
Wait, is the name, image, and likeness deal?
It's a name, image, and likeness. Yeah.
Yeah. So all these college football players are getting money thrown at them, which is causing chaos and mayhem in the trade portals and all of these things. And the haters are gonna hate. But I love the chaotic nature that this is.
I mean, I know Nick Saban hates NIL, or at least he seems to be really upset with the way it's.
Nick Saban doesn't seem to hate that commercial money he's getting.
And he didn't hate it making millions and millions and millions as a coach.
Right.
While the players were playing for free.
Yes.
So even though he seems to be an amazing human being, I'm not even saying anything about that, but he seemed to quit when the system quit on him. You know, he retired when the system shifted. And I guess I don't blame him. If you have an expertise in a certain system, he's probably brilliant enough to know that this new system would work against him. And then, of course, the first year Alabama doesn't even make the playoffs and then loses in a bowl game. I actually think it's a fascinating time. You know why there's chaos in NIL? Because there was greed in college football. 20 years ago, they should have solved this problem. They should have been solving this problem over the last 3 decades, little by little, creating an infrastructure where the college players could be taken care of and appropriately and in an organized and systematic way. But because universities didn't want to give up a penny, now they're losing everything.
Okay, so one thing that was really interesting yesterday was that they had to postpone a bowl game. It was a heartbreaking day to wake up to because there were so many bizarre things that were happening all over our country, from what was going on in Louisiana to the man who drove a truck into a crowd, to then 150 pipe bombs being found in a house in Virginia.
I just heard about that.
So did you see that the Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas?
Yes, I saw that.
Okay.
I thought, is this a statement? Because it's Trump and then Tesla, Cybertruck, it's Musk.
It feels like a little bit of a statement.
It felt like a little bit of a statement, but then I thought I saw the strangest article that contradicted itself, because it said President Biden said there's no connection between the two attacks. And in the same article, it said that the person who drove the Cybertruck and the person who drove the car in New Orleans were on the same base in the military. So they were both trained in the same place,
that's too much of a coincidence.
When you say there's no connection, I'm going, that's a pretty significant connection. And they wouldn't say which base it was for obvious reasons. But that's really disconcerting, that a military base could actually be a hive for recruiting and training ISIS terrorists. And I'm going to say ISIS terrorists because I'm in shock when I think the first official said there's no connection. This is not a terrorist act. I'm going, how can you come out and say that when there's an ISIS flag in the back of that truck that's being covered up so that televisions can't see that? Sometimes it feels like
the Cybertruck or the truck in New Orleans?
The truck in New Orleans.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see that.
There was an ISIS flag on the back of the truck in New Orleans, but they covered it up afterwards so no one could see that flag. And
my heart goes out to everybody who's affected. I don't think anyone was hurt in Vegas, but I do think people were definitely hurt in Louisiana.
15 people lost their lives.
And it breaks my heart. It makes me so sad.
Dozens of people have been injured, and it's horrific. And you just can't even begin to express the sadness that something like that creates, and the people whose lives were lost, the family members who are devastated. Families will never be the same. And at least the one in Las Vegas, it seemed no one was injured there except for the driver.
It was just very bizarre that the car was out front, that it exploded. I don't even know how much damage it did to the hotel. But it felt like a statement, and I didn't even put the connection that it's Elon Musk and Donald Trump connected, and then that, someone, it's like, obviously it seems like out of a resentment or some kind of statement that they're making, but it does feel weird. And then I was talking to a friend a couple of days ago, and they said that there's still drones in Jersey, that they were driving in their suburb back home. They live in LA, they were visiting New Jersey, and that they saw the drones. So we have and I was in New York when the drones were happening in Jersey, and you were asking me, like, I think Austin texted me, one of the guys on our team, saying, did you see the drones? And I was like, no, I was on the other side, but also I don't think you could see them from the river. So it was just such a bizarre time. Yeah. It was a bizarre time to be alive. We have, this, it seems like the majority of the country's kind of moved more into this conservative space. You have Stephen A. Smith lighting up the left, destroying the DNC, coming out so loud and vocal about the mishandling of and misappropriation of funds, the distrust in the Democratic left, the distrust in the political party leaders. The fact that Harris, how could she mismanage $1 billion+? Thank God she didn't become the president, because I think she would have mismanaged trillions. But I think we are living at a unique intersection in politics, and whether it's religion, politics, what's happening in the Middle East or in Ukraine and Russia, what's happening with China declaring on the first that saying that Taiwan is still and will always be a part of mainland China. And so we are living in this, it feels like a World War III, but that no one will talk about.
Yeah. And what to me is even really destabilizing is that this is happening when we seem to have a vacuum of leadership in our nation. And I know it's only a few weeks before President Biden is no longer president, but he's still president. And
I forgot about him.
And, if there's ever a moment where we really do need strong leadership and that sense of encouragement, because I remember at 9/11.
Well, I think my only response to that is that I think we're okay because we haven't had strong leadership in 4 years. So I think we're okay without him for two more weeks. But it is odd to me how President Trump is already making statements as if he's president.
He's already perceived as president.
He's already acting as president.
Well,
he's already negotiating as president.
Yeah, because some of the, if you want to go Donald Trump, go toward his ego. Right. And so a few weeks ago, they were saying, well, Elon Musk is really the president.
It was last week.
Last week. Okay.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is really the president. Donald Trump is not the president. I'm going, oh, that's how people on the left are going to go Trump, because he does have a massive ego. I mean, you can, and you can just shoot right for the middle there. You're going to hit it. but
you're saying is that they're trying to throw stones and pick and get under Trump's skin by saying President Elon Musk.
Yes, of course, because that is absolutely the way to get to Trump.
Well, they got him to come out and make a statement.
Right. But here's the thing. Elon Musk is not president, but Donald Trump is not president. The accusations are almost assuming that Trump is already the president, which is fascinating to me, that people on the left would act like Musk is replacing Trump when it's actually still the Biden-Harris presidency.
So we're in this unique space. We have
odd.
We have a transition of power going on. Mm-hmm. Does it feel as if President Biden is relevant at all, other than the fact that he pardoned
like 1,500 or
1,800 people, some of the worst criminals in society. It's almost more than I think any president before him.
No, he is more than any president before him by far.
But how are we? Hey, all my liberal audience out here on Mindshift, talk to me. You've been coming at us for 4 years, 8 years really, about the Trump stuff, about the liberal, the DNC, the RNC, all of these things. We can only be held accountable by our own party. So where are you guys at? Can we get a little bit of discord back?
Well, what's funny for me,
discord's back.
Over the last few weeks, I had someone send me a note saying, I can no longer listen to you because you used Elon Musk as a positive example. How dare you use someone so evil who's on the right? So someone from the left was saying that to me, saying they can no longer listen to me. Then I had a person confront me face to face, telling me, why are you pandering to the left?
Oh, the little white girl at Mosaic
from Louisiana. And so I thought, I must be doing something right, because I got people on the left telling me they can't listen to me anymore, and I have people on the right telling me they can't listen to me anymore. And here's the question. if you could listen to me when I agreed with you, were you really listening to me or just to yourself? Because if all of a sudden, the moment I disagree with you, I'm no longer valid or relevant or trustworthy, are you even capable of hearing a dissenting view? Because I'm probably one of the least extremist people you will ever listen to, who doesn't hold a continuous position on the right or the left. I just try to look at things objectively and honestly. And I don't have a political ambition. I'm not trying to elect the right or the left. So, but I do like making honest observations about reality. And you don't have to be on the right to say President Biden is an absentee president who clearly has lost the capacity to lead. You don't have to be on the right to say that. I think you just have to be honest to say that. I think the media has hidden his incompetence and his inability to lead for years.
Wait, did you? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did you see that I was going to send you this TikTok? Hold on. The majority of our relationship in the holidays has just been us sending each other like clips from TikTok back and forth. We'll probably I wonder if we can fuse any of this in here. Can we put clips in podcasts? Okay, here.
Things got so bleak, we started watching the WNBA. What happened? 2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Go for it.
It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate.
Did you hear that?
What'd she say?
It's crazy that the pro-choice party didn't give the people a choice when it came to voting for their president.
Oh, wow.
And then she just goes in on Harris, but it's a comedian named Whitney Cummings, and she was on the
CNN.
She's on CNN New Year's Eve feed with Anderson Cooper, and what's that guy's name? Andy something.
Andy Cohen.
Andy Cohen, who's a hot. That's crazy that they still do that. That should be like on. It feels like that should have been like an Adult Swim thing, like a Dave Chappelle show, because it gets so like they interviewed a DJ Diplo who was like on acid, who he said he's like, yeah, I'm tripping right now. I'm at a party and wherever he is, and I think he lives in Costa Rica or Puerto Rico or something. It was such a unique moment, but I did find it funny that they're giving the left a hard time.
I'm just saying there are things that are obvious on both ends.
Okay.
And when you say things about the right that are obvious and true, it doesn't mean you're on the left.
Okay.
And then you say things that are obvious and true about the left in critique, it doesn't mean you're on the right. Somehow, it's almost as if you're not allowed to tell the truth.
Huh.
You have to toe a party line. And if anything for 2025, I hope we have a year where people tell the truth. Now, I do think, and just be straight up, I think the left is going to be more inclined to tell the truth now that Trump will be president, because they don't have a problem telling the truth about Trump, but they really do have a problem telling the truth about themselves. And I think it's true in both ways, right? And so when I see Trump recommending people that I don't think should be in the cabinet, I think it's okay to say, I think that's a bad choice.
Like Gates. You said Gates was a bad choice from day one.
I did. I said, you asked me, name one person you think shouldn't be nominated.
When initially, like the first week when everybody was starting to get, all the names are getting thrown into the hat.
I said, Matt Gates should have never been nominated.
Yeah.
And he's a bad candidate.
You said it before anything bad came out.
Yeah. And, and it's just, to me, it's just so obvious. Okay. Right? Those are things. And it's obvious to me, it's obvious to me Elizabeth Warren is not a Native American Indian, and there are things that you just look back and go, guys, why do we play this game where we don't actually press into truth? Okay,
so what you were saying is that you feel that now, given the opportunity, the left will probably tell a lot more of the truth, because it's not so much they're in this unique position where they'll tell the truth about the right. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to look at your political party and go, are they telling the truth about themselves? Not are they telling the truth about the other person? Are they telling the truth about themselves? Right? They love to tell the truth about the other person. That's just called snitching. or just, I don't know, toxic behavior.
Yes. No, I think you have a that's the point. I think what you just said is the clip, because you cannot change or grow if you only tell the truth about other people, but don't tell the truth about yourself. And I think that's right now the Achilles heel of the Democratic Party. They're willing to tell the truth about other people, but they're not willing to own the truth about themselves. And when I heard, I don't know if it was at Harvard or somewhere, they were evaluating the campaign, the Harris campaign. They said they ran a perfect campaign. And when I listened to that, I thought, oh, they're not going to get better. Like, if you can't self-evaluate and self-critique, you're incapable of change and you're incapable of growth. The heart, have you ever been in a fight with someone and they tell you the truth about you, but they can't see the truth about themselves?
Yeah, we were in a fight very recently with someone like that.
Yeah, and I realized that even in the conversation I was in, 3 layers in, they're still telling me their truth about what they felt I did, but they couldn't see any truth about what they did. And I realized, okay, this conversation can't go anywhere, because if I can embrace a truth about myself, but you can't embrace the truth about yourself, we really are in an impasse.
We should talk about navigating those types of conversations maybe in the next episode, because that conversation was then seconded by another conversation. We've had a lot of hard conversations at the end of the year, but one of the things that I realized is how do you fight well?
Yeah.
Because the person was upset with us, but then we were like, hey, look, but there's a bunch of stuff that we're trying to do right. So we want to make this situation right. But then there's also stuff you're doing as well. And so I never want to be this ping pong fighter where hey, this is my problem I'm presenting to you. And then we're hey, well, these are all the problems we have with you. I don't want to be the ammo saver that just shoots everything, all the missiles in a fight, Yeah. So maybe we could talk about that at some other point, because I think that's a great conversation.
Yeah. And I think that the reality is that in life, you're always going to have conflicts. You're always going to have disagreements. And we're looking at this from a political perspective, and now we're looking at it from a personal perspective.
Right.
On a political perspective, a party is going to defeat itself if it cannot tell itself the truth. And I don't remember who it was, but it's a great quote: "Never interrupt your enemy while they're defeating themselves." And right now, frankly, the Democratic Party has been defeating itself by becoming more and more and more progressive, moving further and further and further to the left. And the Republican Party will do the same thing to itself if it goes further and further and further to the right, and it just keeps pushing to the right rather than actually dealing with the real problems Americans have and solving the real issues.
Well, we talked about transparency and truth, but one of the things that you had sent me a clip, or maybe I sent you a clip on Senator John Kennedy in Georgia talking about
Louisiana.
In Louisiana, talking about how so Senator John Kennedy in Louisiana was talking about how he knows what's going on. He knows that there's much more information available. He's been briefed, but he was calling on the FBI to make sure that they were transparent and honest with the American people. So I do find that there's a huge turn against the FBI. Politicians hate them. It seems like there's an internal political shift against the 7,000 employees that are operating inside of a building in DC that need to be deployed out into, they're probably into the field in America to make the US safe again. Yeah. So I find that really unique. I have a friend who's an FBI agent. I think he's a wonderful human, and I imagine the people around him are wonderful people. So I imagine the FBI is filled with great people. I think there might be just an ethos change that needs to happen. But I've found it really odd and fascinating that a senator and who's seasoned is going, I know what happened. I know what's going on. They're not telling us everything. I don't think everything needs to be deployed now, all of the information, because it's an ongoing investigation. But I really do hope that they share what they do know. Very shortly. Yeah. And I found that really surprising, because we live in this era where the drones in New Jersey, the situation in Louisiana, these different occurrences are happening all over the country, and we're not getting real answers from the government. And what is the purpose of the government? Is it to keep information from us? Is it to keep us safe? Is it to make sure that we have a transparent relationship with the people we pay taxes to? Because it becomes very dangerous when we feed money into a system that doesn't feed information back.
Yeah. And I think what we're really seeing is that this election isn't really about economics. It isn't about choice. It isn't about all these different social or economic issues. It's really about your view of government. Progressive have said to us, government is the only institution you can trust. And so we need a bigger and bigger government because you can trust the government. And the right is saying governments cannot be trusted. They need to be minimized so they can do the least possible harm. And this is an ideological moment in history. Do you believe that governments should grow and control the actions of its citizens? Or do you believe that government should be minimal and be responsive to the will of the people? And that's an interesting kind of thing, because when I was growing up, I remember saying, how could anyone ever be a Republican? Republicans are all about government. They want to control everyone. I was a liberal and a Democrat when I was young because I believed the Democrats were the ones who didn't trust institutions. I mean, I'm a child of the 60s, and the liberals didn't trust the man. The Republicans were the man. But what's happened over the last few decades is there's been a shift towards the Democrats who tell us government is, in government we trust. And it's the Republicans going, don't trust the government. And so we need to realize that our trust in the FBI, our trust in the CIA, our trust in every governmental agency is at an all-time low. And it is so low that there is no currency left of trust. Trust is going to have to be re-earned and reestablished from a political governmental perspective.
Okay, and with that said, I think that's the perfect ending to this episode. I think we know we're going to dive in and film a couple episodes for the start of this new year. I think we're going to talk about Quitting Day in our next week's episode and some exciting things around Quitting Day, which is January 10th, which happens to be a Mindshift podcast release date, which is very, very exciting. I know we want to talk about culture versus talent, the Lions and the Rams. I know we want to also talk about this further, the transfer of power and the unique cabinet selection that the right seems to be picking. And there's an underlying theme and connecting theme and a common denominator that seems to be connecting each person picked for the cabinet. So I know we're going to dive into that. I know we also want to dive into some theological things, I'm sure, and some clips that ruffled some feathers over the holidays. Very, very excited about that. But guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Mindshift. Go and rate and review this episode. And do not forget, we are launching a brand new Mindshift podcast community. ErwinMcManus.com/MindshiftPod. You can join the community for $25. We're doing a private call very, very soon. We're going to do some extra content and do some exclusive merch releases. Join the community. We will see you guys next week.